We've just arrived at the coffee plantation. Lewis and I.
Which here right now?
Now we've had lunch, we've been dropped off. Look at this Cuban man we found.
Little flowers we got. These are really nice.
I'm going to have a rollie for the first time in a long time. And we're going to hopefully be given one of the nicest coffees we've ever had.
Lovely view. Juxtaposition.
Look at this bamboo. It's bamboozling me.
That is definitely blue now, isn't it?
So I've just tasted one of the fresh, ripe, red beans. It's got a lovely, really pleasant, sweet flavour, which I did not expect. And you can see here the bean from the inside, and I assume this is what they roast. Nearing the top of the plantation now. Here's the view. Our guide was telling us that this plantation was started in the year 1979 by an American gentleman who later sold this to a Japanese company, and they've been really trying to grow a very hardy type of coffee plant that thrives in these conditions. And he was telling us that the 45-degree slope of the Blue Mountains ensures that yes, there's a lot of rainfall, but it doesn't cause the plants to rot and provides excellent conditions for them to grow. And with this, you can see on the branches here you've got a multitude of different types of ripeness. You've got green, young ones, red ones ready to pick. And this is very different to the South American type of setup, where mostly they all become ripe at once and then they're picked by machines. But here they're picked by some ladies who come through on a daily basis looking for the best and the most ripe beans and pick them straight off by hand.
They are the Arabica species. You see, the lifespan of these coffee are 15, 20 years. When they reach that stage, what they do, they take it at the root, about 18 inches, and they start to spring from the sides up. Within 2.5 years, they start to produce again. Not like the just planted one where a root is rotten and you put in a new plant. It takes 3 years for that plant. But this, when you cut it back, because the root already anchored in the earth, and when it spring up back, within 2.5 years, they start to produce again. The one that you freshly planted, it takes 3 years to produce. Okay? And you see in the Blue Mountain, on any given plantation, it's very important for us to have shades also. Okay, because the plant exposed to too much sunlight or too much rain can pose a problem. That's why we have the banana tree throughout the farm, which is a fast growing straight tree. Okay, we have the guango here, the guango. These are the guango, with the seed up there and the ink up the top. But from my observation, the guango is the best. Why? In the winter it sheds its leaf. In the spring it takes on back its leaf. It also provides water for the plant through mulching. Okay, because you see what we do, we don't have any drip irrigation in place. So we rely heavily on the rainfall for the plants, you know. This tree also bears a fruit that only the lower type of animal can eat. Very important tree to have on any given plantation in the Blue Mountain. Also, when I was entering into a business, I always tell my visitors, sometimes you gain, sometimes you lose. No one wants to be a loser, but at times. Okay, we have some little insect on the plantation, they call berry borer. They fly only 20 feet and stop. Very destructive. They are more active in the summer. When the beans are hard, what they do, they penetrate the bottom of the beans, they go inside and they lay their eggs. Sometimes when the men go through, open the bean, look inside, they see 70 to 100 larvae. If you don't control those immediately as they discover, they can destroy the entire crop. Our crop was destroyed in 2013 by those insects. The whole 40 acre. We lost everything. What we do, what they do, they try some experiment. and it works. They get some 12 fluid ounce bottle, take out both sides, put water in the bottom, and a little thing called ethanol in the middle. You see, the ethanol is an attraction. What it does, it draws the insect to it, and they go in the bottle and they drown. And they spread out on the side of the road about 40 feet apart. Very effective. Yeah, because you see what they're trying to do also is trying to eliminate the use of dangerous chemical, which is not good for human health. And they're trying to protect the environment also. And you see, being under the Rainforest Alliance, where we are being certified, we got to be careful of the chemical we use, especially on this plantation. You see, coffee is grown at an altitude of 5,550 feet above sea level. That's near 1,800 meters. Here where we are, it's 3,001 feet above sea level. That's near 900 meters. And why this coffee is so unique, rich in aromas, it's nice flavor, you know, and what the, take for instance, in the morning you have this heavy dew on the plant. By 11 o'clock it dried up. By 3 o'clock, sometimes we have this massive cloud cover. This is where nature come and play for our coffee. Because you see, if I take a ripe bean off the tree right now and you suck it, it's very sweet. You see, the only coffee in the world that has a natural sugar, the Blue Mountain coffee. Okay, that's why what the Japanese does, they bring in the expert into the island and they taste the coffee and see that it's good, and they specialize in quality. That's why they acquired 75% of the whole region of this coffee goes to Japan, 15%, 25% to the rest of the world. You see, and if you want UCC Craighton Estate Blue Mountain coffee, you have to come here to get it, or you have to go to Japan. We don't sell on the local market.
It was established in 1765, so the house is 257 years old. Built for a Scottish Italian man, he grew coffee on 400 acres that surrounded the main house. Did this until 1805 when it was acquired by George Craighton. So that's why it's called Craighton Estate today. He continued the cultivation of coffee into the 1840s, after which there was an abrupt end to Jamaica's coffee industry. The property was acquired by the government. So this became the official second residence of the governors who governed over Jamaica from that point into the 1900s. In the 50s, it was acquired by the British multinational firm Tate & Lyle. So they took over the property, used it for residential purposes. The land surrounding the house would have basically decreased from 400 acres to 83. So the new owners in the late 60s, early 70s, thereabout, that was a transition period, reintroduced coffee on the 83 acres. The production of coffee here was prolific throughout that decade, and in 1981 they opted to sell the property. There was strong interest from Mr. Mick Jagger of the Rolling Stones and Mr. Tada Wishima of Wishima Coffee Company, based in Japan. At the end of it all, it was Mr. Wishima who was doing the bonsai. He outbid Mick Jagger to acquire Craighton Estate and continue the cultivation of coffee here. His interest in Jamaica Blue Mountain coffee started in the 1950s, where in 1953, out of a need for a very high quality coffee in Japan, he sourced 3 barrels of Blue Mountain #1 beans in London. They were brought back to Kobe, where they were thoroughly analyzed at the company's headquarters. They found out that there were properties in this Blue Mountain coffee which are uncomparable. Hence, they basically prepared it as the perfect tea. And it took on that notoriety and also fame in Japan. So the 50s, by 58, Jamaica started direct trade with Japan through coffee. The 60s, it took off. The 70s, you have done joint ventures, partnerships to keep the relationship going. And in 1981, he acquired Craighton. The company has since expanded its cultivation of coffee here in extent of 370 acres. Seed to cup, which is now known today as single origin. So the coffee is grown on separate estates, processed separately, and shipped directly to Japan under the estate brand. Okay? But UCC as an entity is the largest importer of Jamaica Blue Mountain coffee. Single importer. Before the death of Mr. Wishima as well, he basically willed that the property should never be sold, preserved as a part of Jamaica's heritage, and his wish was for persons globally to have access to the property, which he called shofukate, and those who visit the property to have a good coffee smile. So I hope you'll have a good coffee smile today. Okay?
Yeah.
Now in terms of the world of coffee, this is it, of which Jamaica is a part. There's some 72 beans presented here, produced in 53 countries. All of these countries must lie within the tropics of Cancer and Capricorn. So once a country is within 23.5 degrees to the north or south of the equator, you can produce coffee. From the dominant species known globally are the Arabica and the Robusta. But there's also the Excelsior and the Liberica. All can trace their origins to Africa. The Arabica is from Ethiopia, the Robusta is from the Congo, Liberica is from Liberia, and the Excelsior evolved in India, but it's originally from Africa. Okay? Now the first domesticated would have been the Arabica. Took place between the 5th and 9th century AD in the kingdom of Kaffa and in Ethiopia, and that's where the name Kafi originated. They basically established coffee being prepared by roasting and brewing. Through trade it entered Arabia around 1000 AD into Yemen. They added green coffee beans to their favorite drink, kawa, which is generally made from cardamom. So kawa became a combination of green coffee beans and cardamom. It is a highly energizing drink and revered throughout the Arab world as an holy drink of Islam. It looks just like the energy drink Red Bull, but if Red Bull gives you wind, kawa takes you to the moon. The Ottomans of Turkey, basically, once they conquered that region, the Red Sea regions of Africa and Arabia, seized control of the trade of coffee. They basically propelled it as a national symbol. So throughout the Ottoman Empire, coffee had now become very much a part of their culture. It filtered into Western Europe through Italy, marred by high resistance because of its association to Islam and the Ottoman. So it wasn't until the 1600s that coffee was accepted, blessed and baptized in Rome by Pope Clement VIII and rebaptized by the Archbishop of Canterbury. From 1515 up until that point, only intellects drank coffee, and they were known as the intelligentsia, almost the radicals of society, you could say, because coffee was considered seeds of Satan, devil's brew, drink of darkness, the ash of hell, and the forbidden fruit. But it was a positive impact to Europe because with its acceptance, it reversed the consumption of alcohol. And that has not changed since, where Europe is now predominantly coffee drinking, especially Western Europe, and basically less alcohol. But before it would have been the reverse, where up to 70% would have been alcohol, 30% others. From the 1700s onwards, it was 70% coffee, 30% other. It's important to note that London would have played its role, and England as a country, in coffee, and the dynamics of it even affects the world of coffee today. The very first coffee house in Europe was officially opened in 1640. It's important to note that the very first coffee shop was established in Constantinople in 1475 by two brothers from Syria, Ali and Akem, and it was called the Kivahan. So in Venice, 1640, and in England, in Oxford, England, a Turkish Jew named Jacob's Pharmacy, or Jacob's Coffee Shop, and it's still there in Oxford. That's the very first coffee house in England. London by the 1700s was really the epicenter of the trade of coffee. The standards that govern coffee today were established in the 1700s, still do. And it's important to note that the stock exchange was started because of coffee. The very first stock ever traded on the London Stock Exchange is coffee. And it is the old recession-proof commodity on planet Earth. Even Lloyd's of London was once a coffee house, Lloyd's Coffee House, and one of the first distributors of Jamaican Blue Mountain coffee. At the peak of British coffee culture, the most coffee houses in the world found in the city of London. They were called penny universities or house of knowledge, because it's where you'd find intellects. You wanted to read, learn to read, write, wanted something to be done, you went to the coffee house. But Britain departed from coffee, starting in the 1760s, where laws were beginning to pass, where coffee was seen as a drink that fueled revolutionary thinking. So as the suppression started, and tea was to become the drink of the British Empire. So from that point onwards, in the 1800s, it was cemented, where Britain became predominantly tea drinkers and coffee basically was shunned. Continental Europe would have deferred. 1690, the Dutch moved coffee from Africa for the second time. The very first was to India in 1508, to southern India. So the Dutch took coffee to Java. From Java, they took it to the Western Hemisphere, to Suriname, the very first place in the Western Hemisphere to grow it. And it's actually from Suriname where coffee was smuggled through French Guiana to Brazil in 1727. Today, Brazil is the world's largest coffee producer. Suriname does not produce coffee anymore. In 1728, coffee arrived on the island of Jamaica. And we benefited from plants that also originated in Java. They were taken from Java to Amsterdam, from Amsterdam to Paris as ornamental plants. 8 plants were sent to the Caribbean, to the French island of Martinique. 1 plant survived the voyage. That 1 plant over 54 years directly reproduced 18 million coffee plants across the territories of Martinique, Guadeloupe, and Haiti. And out of that, Jamaica received 6. Planted just north of Kingston on the Temple Hall Estate. Right up here. Yeah, in this general area. Those 6 plants propagated. And by 1737, Jamaica was shipping coffee to London. First export 83,000 pounds. Highest export in 1814, 34 million pounds. But by the 1840s, as I said, Britain said no to coffee, yes to tea. And generally Jamaica's coffee industry went to sleep. For the last decade, our highest production would have hovered just below 6 million pounds, high of just over 7.5. 15% is kept on the island, 85% is exported. 70% of what we export goes to Japan, and 30% to Europe and North America. Any questions? Now, in terms of the dynamics, the Arabica, the Robusta, what's the difference? The Robusta is a hard version of coffee. Okay? In terms of its chemistry, very sour, very bitter, very acid, contains 3 times more caffeine than the Arabica, grows anywhere and one quality. In Africa and Arabia, because of its harsh chemistry, they drink small servings and they never add anything to the coffee, especially milk. Milk added to the Robusta cannot be readily digested by the human digestive system. Okay? So, outside of Africa and Arabia, the Robusta is mainly grown in Vietnam and Brazil, and they are the world's largest producer. In actual production figures, in excess of 50% of the world's coffee now is Robusta, with a high demand for commercial coffee. But the more viable coffee, price-wise, is the Arabica. So in the unrestricted market, 8% of the coffee is still branded as Arabica. And Arabica is vaguely used, Arabica, Arabica, Arabica. But the Arabica varies immensely. So no 2 Arabicas are the same. They're very sensitive to the growing conditions. And they produce a unique chemistry based on where they're grown and how they're processed. The Arabica grows best in environments where the weather is balanced. It ought never to be too hot, cold, wet, dry, even humidity. It needs shade, it needs sunlight, it needs the right amount of water by rainfall or irrigation. It needs altitude and a well-drained fertile soil. And if all those conditions come together, then you're price producing high quality coffee. In Jamaica, we produce 3 categories: Jamaica Prime Wash, Jamaica High Mountain Supreme, and the world famous Jamaica Blue Mountain. All from the same plants. But I can zoom. All right, zoom. So these are the coffee producing regions. So below 2,000 feet, at 1,400 and 1,700, you'll grow Jamaica Prime Wash. Central region, 2,200, 2,900, 3,300 feet above sea level. Even this high, you can still only produce Jamaica High Mountain Supreme. The world famous Jamaica Blue Mountain coffee, the coffee of kings and queens, can only be grown in this region. The question generally asked is, what makes this area so special? Well, it's in Jamaica, what do you expect? But the highest peak is 7,402 feet above sea level. It's important to note that coffee is grown at much higher altitudes than 7,000 feet. The Blue Mountain Range, however, geologically is the oldest portion of the island of Jamaica. It's between 65 and 140 million years older than the rest of Jamaica. It is the only portion of Jamaica that is totally volcanic. So the rest of the island is limestone. There's no limestone in the Blue Mountains, hence has evolved into this microclimate. The temperature is naturally 7 to 10 degrees cooler than the rest of the island. And our day-to-day weather is fairly predictable. Most sunlight daily, sunrise to 11:30 a.m. From 11:30 up until 4 p.m., you'll get an interchange of warm and cool. You'll get one of the most beautiful sunsets, okay? And once the sun sets, the temperature goes below 20 degrees Celsius. So our average nighttime temperature is a high of 19 degrees, okay? And at this time of the year, coming into January, February, is when we begin to worry here, because it's when we start to face bitter winter conditions. So the temperature will drop in the months of January and February to frigid lows of 17 and 16 degrees Celsius. So we have to be very careful that we don't freeze to death here in the mountains or suffer from frostbite, and all of that, and hypothermia. But the weather pattern, along with the environment, will affect the maturity cycle of our coffee. The average maturity cycle of a coffee cherry that you'd have seen from the Arabica in general is normally 6 to 8 months maximum. In the Blue Mountains of Jamaica, it takes no less than 9 to 11 months. With this prolonged maturity, the coffee exerts more impurities than the average coffee would. The coffee bean also becomes more dense, and that's a key criterion for quality, how dense the beans are. The method of processing that we use in Jamaica is washed exclusive, time-consuming, labor-intensive, and will take no less than 5 months for the beans to be ready for export. Note that this process, fully mechanized, fully automated, can take a week. Okay? But first we select the fruits by hand. Once harvested, the red cherries are placed in water to test their density. If a fruit is good, it sinks. If it isn't, it floats. The floats will rise. You take those off. The dense ones you take to the mill. You extract the parchments from them. They are encased in glucose and a thin layer, which is the coffee husk. That syrup has to be washed because we do not do fermented coffee. We will put them in the sun to dry. They are exposed to sunlight and grain for 10 to 12 days. Okay? We try to reduce the moisture level by initially 20%. It's important to know that the coffee naturally contains 70% water. So at 80% humidity, we will put it in a controlled environment. Humidity no higher than 60%, no lower than 55%. And it remains there for 3 to 4 months. Important to note that this process can be done in a matter of hours using jet dryers. Once the green beans have been extracted, you then measure your coffee. Coffee is measured globally using one system, and one system only. And this is known as the British Standard Scale. So this was developed in England in the 1700s and still governs the world of coffee globally. So even though Britain ditched coffee for tea, they kept the institution that governs it globally. All right? So if you try to replicate these, you'll get into a lot of trouble because it is measured using British measurement, British standard measurement. So the closest metric measurement you can get is millimeters, okay? But you do millimeter scale errors. So once you're going to trade coffee on the global market, ICO representatives must visit your estate or your processing plant and give you your calibration. Once that is done, then you can enter your coffee for trade. Now the numbers are universal. This is a 14 screen, this is a 13. In Jamaica, we start screening at a 20. Any bean that filters in 20 is a giant. And that's commercial coffee. 17, 18, and 19 are Blue Mountain number ones. 16 and 15 number twos. 14 and 13 are number threes. So these are number 3 screens. Once the beans have been screened, along with our pea berries. So the pea berries where there's only one bean in the pod. Okay? But we do not use these screens for pea berries. In fact, we use these. So flat parchments are pores, and pea berries are like cuboids, all right? It's a difference. Pores, okay. Now, once the beans have been screened for size, we will then have to evaluate the coffee for imperfectness. Blue Mountain coffee is luxury, which means that it has to be perfectly defined and validated. So these are visible defects found in coffee. They are removed all by hand in Jamaica. Or some they'll use machine then and sorting. Now the first sorting is to get the good bean. Once you get your good beans, you get rid of all the defects. You will then assess the good bean. Number 1, pea berry, number 2, number 3, to ensure that you're between 95 and 100% perfect in your color, texture, size, or shape. Any bean that just below 95 but above 85 can still be traded as select A, select B, and select C. That's Jamaica. Compared to other countries, premium beans are allowed 40% defect. In Jamaica, 5%. Second tier bean, 15%, elsewhere 60%. So when you see the price disparity on the market, these are the reasons, okay? Now after all of this work is completed, 5 months of it, the coffee is still not Blue Mountain coffee. Not until it has been taken for final certification at the Central Depository in Kingston, JACRA. at JACRA, or the Coffee Industry Board, formerly the Coffee Industry Board, the Jamaica Agricultural Regulatory Authority, are certified ICO master tasters. No Q graders, master tasters. Now, a master taster must maintain a palate accuracy of plus or minus 2.5%. You don't smoke, you don't do alcohol. Spicy food, garlic, onions, citrus, you stay away from those. Okay? So I'm a cup taster, not a master taster. They'll analyze the coffee and their signature will basically declare the coffee fit for trade globally. Okay? They'll analyze the coffee across 10 criteriums, and that's speciality if you're doing 10. Each criterium is given a minimum score of 6 and a maximum score of 10. And that is how the coffee is traded. 60 to 67.5, those coffees are good. Very good is 70 to 77.5. Excellent are 80 to 87.5. And outstanding coffees are 90 to 97.5. The elements that you assess are fragrance and aroma, flavor, aftertaste, acidity, body, uniformity, or balance, or clean, or sweet, and an overall assessment. The lowest quality Jamaica Blue Mountain coffee is 83. Jamaica's highest quality is 97.5. Jamaica is the only country in the entire world that has a base score of excellent and a premium score of outstanding, and that is why we're here at the top. Okay? Now, the cup of coffee that you just drank, that is what we call the basic accepted standards. This cup of coffee, once it's Blue Mountain, should never taste sour. The bitter oils that are in this coffee are similar to chocolate, so you see that mild bitterness. It's naturally sweet, and that is why you can tolerate drinking this coffee without adding any sweetness to it or flavors. If you do choose to add milk, you will still end up with a neutral taste, not a bittersweet taste. All right? And the reason is that Jamaica Blue Mountain coffee is the only coffee in the world that is purely alkali and not acidic. And that's the main reason why it is highly sought after in the Japanese market. It's alkalinity, pH balance. So there's no lingering aftertaste if you notice. Okay? Very smooth. Distinct fragrance and aroma, and it is non-volatile. So drinking this coffee massages the cardiac because it produces pure niacin. Regular coffee or imbalanced coffee will cause palpitation and jitters. The taurine is balanced. So it does not give you, it gives you a sudden rise in energy. Nor will it affect your blood pressure. It produces high levels of active antioxidants. Elements are in that cup of coffee that naturally guards the body against developments of cancers, diabetes, Alzheimer's, Parkinson's disease, and dementia. And in one cup, there are no more than 20 to 25 milligrams of caffeine. Your regular Arabica is 55 to 65 milligrams of caffeine, and a Robusta is 150 to as much as 175 milligrams. So you always advise to drink no more than a half of a cup of Robusta, and you don't add milk to it. Milk to Robusta coffee is semi-toxic to the human body, not readily digested. Okay? Now, I'm a cup taster, and what cup taster means is that even if I sit with master tasters and our scores are the same, my score can only be classified as correct. That of the master taster is accurate. Okay? So only accurate measures can certify a coffee for export and international trade. Okay? Can regulate. My score validates. But I'm a cup taster because I'm a master roaster. Alright? So I can summarize this for you. This is marketing. Don't get too involved with that. There are 3 scores. Roast, light, medium, dark. Light roast coffee contains the highest caffeine, lowest flavor. Medium roast is what you're having right now. Strongest coffee, strongest flavor. Good coffee, good, bad coffee, bad. Dark roast is a disguised roast. So whether the coffee is Arabica, Robusta, high quality, low quality, so quality, all coffee will present the same chemistry roasted dark. Dark roast coffee contains the lowest caffeine levels, but the highest levels of bitter oils and acids. It's marketed to you as an espresso roast. Please note that an espresso machine is engineered to decaffeinate coffee. So one gets little or no caffeine in a cup of coffee made from an espresso machine. But if there are bitter oils and acids in it, that is what you will get, and that is what gives you the jitters. It has nothing to do with caffeine. And if you express coffee, it's important to note that an express cup of coffee is served with a glass or two of water. Extremely important that you have both. If you don't, you're not having an espresso. All right? And I can tell you, if you suffer from heartburns and indigestion, ulcers from drinking, if the coffee is expressed and you pour milk on it to make all of those funny decorations that everybody seems to love with whipped cream and the world on top of it, I don't know what they haven't put in it yet, you know, probably a football field, a castle, I don't know, pumpkin, gold, milk, whatever. It's important to know that that is indigestion. Your body cannot digest that. So after drinking that coffee, whether hot or cold, you will develop heartburns, ulcers, and you will constantly have acid reflux. All right? Thank you. It was a pleasure.
That was definitely one of the best cups of coffee I've had. Served black, no sugar, and still very well balanced, very sweet. So yeah, really impressed. What did you think of the coffee, Brian?
I thought it was really good, really nice coffee. Expensive, obviously, but
Yeah.
very nice.
You get what you pay for, don't you?
Yeah.
You know, we've seen all the way that they do it, authentically, by hand, and yeah, it's definitely, it is what they say it is.